I've just crossed over the barrier of 300,000 subscribers and over 100 million views. This is now a time to celebrate, but more importantly, celebrate for you, because I have now helped each and every one of you save thousands of dollars, and I'm going to explain how I did that so you can save some cash too. I've recently ran a poll over on my other social media platforms that asked, what types of vehicles did you buy and what kind of vehicles were you thinking about buying, and my conversation helped change your mind. Many of you asked, should I buy an Audi? This great new technology, the MMI system, it's wonderful. A lot of you end up buying vehicles like this, the Lexus IS350, and simply have responded by saying they could not have made a better decision because the Lexus has left them with virtually little money out of the pocket, has been ruthlessly reliable, and they never regret a moment. I also like to share proper tips when you're buying your next car. Should you trade in? Should you buy? Should you lease? Did you know now we're at 1 out of 4 people, or about 25% of the population, taking out car loans on their new vehicle are in negative equity, and the average is around $7,000 owing when they try to go and retrade it in 3 to 5 years. That's right, most people are still underwater, owing more to the bank than that vehicle's actually worth. The best way around that is get yourself the best vehicle with the best amount of value retention, like Lexus, Acuras, Toyotas, Hondas, and even some BMWs like the B58 Power. Have you ever seen resale prices on some of the B58 vehicles, like an X5 M40i or an X3 M40i? Those vehicles are holding crazy values. So a lot of it's about durability, reliability, value retention. I had a viewer named John reach out to me a few years ago. He was buying a new car. And again, John reached out to me recently because he now was going to trade in the vehicle that he bought 4 years ago. Now, John reached out and he asked me the question at the time, what vehicle should I buy? It was an Infiniti Q50, or should I buy a BMW M340 or 340i? Told him they're both great cars, but one's likely going to have a better value retention. One might have a slightly better level of reliability, albeit both engines are fairly stout. But the other one, particularly the BMW, has a ZF 8-speed and is a better vehicle in terms of the gearbox. I steered John over to buy the BMW. Well, here we are. Just recently, John reached out and said, you know what? I'm looking at the value retentions and the residuals on some of these vehicles, and he was going to trade in his BMW, and he got as much, even slightly more than he expected to, out of the BMW. So he saved thousands of dollars just by listening to my recommendation. And I had another viewer named Jock who reached out and said, look, he was debating 2 years ago of buying a Mercedes GLC 300 based on the same chassis as I have, same engine, same gearbox, or the GLC 43. And I said, look, depends how long you want to keep it. What do you feel is the best suited for you? Do you have the budget? Because budget always comes in. So he said, well, really, budget wasn't the biggest issue. So I ended up steering Jock towards buying a GLC 43 because at that time I already knew the GLC 300 already had a few nickel and dime issues. Now, cosmetically, the plastics, the interior are going to be the same, but I also knew that the engine that you find in the AMG version like this of this GLC 43 came with a much more stout engine. That's right, it was a twin turbo 3-liter V6, and not only does this vehicle look better, but with this twin turbo V6 and the all-wheel drive, it is actually more reliable than the GLC 300, which is based on the platform I own. Because I now have done a PCV replacement. Granted, it was on an extended warranty, but V has not had an ounce or a lick of issues, and he was definitely not regretting making that purchase. Yes, you pay a little more on the front end. Get the best drivetrain, not the best price. You get what I'm saying? Same thing goes with Lexus vehicles. People often ask me, should I get the IS300 or should I get the IS350? My storyline always gravitates to get the IS350, skip the turbocharged 4-cylinder engine altogether, and go with the naturally aspirated V6 like you'll find in this vehicle, and you're sure to have a better result. Now, that's not saying their turbocharged 4s aren't very good in Lexus, because we all know that Toyota and Lexus are still building a pretty durable turbo system. When you have such a great reputation of a V6 that these do, with both direct and port fuel injection, you don't have carbon fouling like some of its competition, like you're going to find in the Audis or BMWs or Benzes, where they don't utilize that type of tech, and you're ultimately going to have more maintenance to tear into the intake, clean the intake valves. And even though some people are okay with that, the vast majority of the population are not DIYers and don't want any part of that. They want to turn their key and go. So people have often thanked me for making those recommendations, and off they went to the races and saving money in their pocket. If you're liking the video so far, you're gonna love the rest of the channel. Be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and don't forget the notifications bell so you know when the next amazing videos come. Because buying a vehicle can be fun, but it also can be very expensive. And I've been sharing vehicles based on Consumers Reports did a collection of some of the most expensive vehicles and some of the least expensive vehicles to own over a 10-year time frame. Lexus vehicles added up to about $7,000 in a 10-year time frame when you talk about changing tires, brakes, unexpected breakdowns, oil services, and all the filters. Mazdas add up to about $5,800 for the same level of statistics and to completely maintain your vehicle for 10 years. And Hondas are known for high levels of reliability and low cost of running, and they're also around $5,835 in a 10-year time frame. But for something a little different and fun and fresh, a lot of people like to try something different, like Mini. Mini is a subsidiary of BMW, and most would expect high maintenance and service costs. However, because of it's a stripped down BMW, a lot of people are surprised to find that it's very similarly priced for maintenance and repair costs over a 10-year period as you're going to find in a Lexus, because these Minis are only about $7,625 in a 10-year time frame, making them actually somewhat affordable. And if you buy a late model car, you can actually have some fun with it and it's not going to leave you broke. Chevys are averaging about $5,600 per a 10-year time frame. That's if you don't have one of those expensive L87 engine issues, but those are being sorted under a recall, so it shouldn't cost you too much to maintain yourself. And wouldn't you know it, it's a toss-up between second and third place between Buick and Toyota, being only about $4,900 in a 10-year time frame to actually maintain that vehicle appropriately. And everybody knows Toyotas are cheap to own and operate, so where does that put the rest of the crew? Brands like Infiniti average about $8,500 per 10 years. Audis are almost $9,900 per 10 years. BMWs are around $9,500 for a 10-year time frame to take care of all the tires, brakes, maintenance, oil changes, and you name it. And Mercedes-Benz, one of its key rivals right here, actually costs $10,523 in a 10-year time frame. Yes, that's right, it costs more to maintain your average Mercedes-Benz than your average BMW. With Acura ranging around $7,800, it's almost right on par with your average Lexus. So it all starts to make sense. The Japanese luxury cars tend to be around that $7,000, $8,000, whereas the German luxury vehicles tend to be $10,000 and $15,000. And then you have Porsche, which averages about $14,000 to $15,000 in a 10-year time frame. But with this brand, you get most of your money back on the investment. So if you buy in, especially with a 911, you're going to get the vast majority of your money back. So you don't necessarily lose. Like the old phrase, like they say, you've got to pay to play. And a Porsche 911 is a key example of that. One of the best, most well-handling, well-rounded sports cars on the planet today. Spend $100 now, get $100 later. And Range Rover capping the list up around almost $20,000 in a 10-year time frame means you're going to spend an average of $2,000 US funds to keep that vehicle on the road if it lasts that long. So as you see, the difference in cost might be $5,000 between me recommending a Honda and me not necessarily recommending a Volvo. Now that being said, cars like this do have a place, and I truly do believe this doesn't end all and be all, of course, with just sheer operating costs, because there is the flip side, reliability, and I always share those numbers. And I've been doing that for years. As a matter of fact, my channel now is over 10 years old. I've been doing this for quite some time. I love sharing, I love helping. I don't want to blow a bunch of smoke where smoke don't go. I just want to give it to you straight as best I know. No vehicle's perfect. Every vehicle can fail. And even the best brands have their issues, like these ones and some of their V6s having some kind of crank hub issues. Not every vehicle is perfect. And so when I talk about these vehicles, I consider a lot of factors. I talk about durability. How hard do you drive them? Are they good for cold weather, hot weather? Vehicles that don't necessarily suffer depreciation, vehicles that will suffer depreciation, and ones I definitely wouldn't recommend. You know, I look at other cars like this, absolutely some of the most glorious and glamorous vehicles to drive around in, but you will lose your shirt and you'll pour all your money into owning it. So pick your poison. Vehicles like BMW, we know the latest generation of BMWs have been a lot better. I used to talk about BMWs, the worst reliability issues with some of their engines, S65, S85, some of their N20s and N54, some trash engines that they've had over the years. But things have gotten better. It's not the cheapest car, but is it the value proposition there? Does it add up? Is it a reliable enough car for me? And for the most part, when I'm sharing this information on these channels, I come out with the perspective of trying to help people. Not everybody wants the cheapest, absolute bottom of the barrel vehicle. Some people want to drive that fun car, but that fun car might have a few caveats. Maybe there's a bad transmission, maybe they eat brakes like they're going out of style. Whatever it is, I like to share and help each and every one of you navigate this complicated car market. And a lot of the times I throw numbers. We talked already about the cost of ownership, but reliability. Reliability isn't cost of ownership. It's the way a vehicle handles itself in terms of navigating down the road without breakdowns. I mean, if you have to pull over, call for a tow truck, then you have a reliability issue. If you just have a vehicle that gives you a service light to tell you you need to do an oil change, that's not a reliability issue. That's just telling you you better get on it. And also, when I'm sharing a lot of this information, I'm helping a lot of you extend the life and prolong the life of your vehicles. The OEMs are putting out these 10,000 mile oil service intervals. We know that's bung. We know that's BS. We know that's crap. And the reason for that is now with direct fuel injected engines, what ends up happening is a lot of everything gets carboned up, fouled up, and of course they don't care. They just need to make the warranty period. And once they make the warranty period, ha! It's on you. Now, reliability is very, very important, and cost of ownership is very important. But sometimes people enjoy the drive. And that's why some people ask me, would I drive one of these vehicles? And I've truly said, this is my favorite Mercedes-Benz that you can possibly get your hands on. If budget was not an issue, this is the car that I would personally buy. Now, it's a little bit out of my budget. It's a little bit pricey, but I have driven these and they are absolutely breathtaking. I mean, this is essentially Mercedes-Benz version of what BMW is doing with the M5, but this vehicle arguably is even more raw. It has a better exhaust note, and I like the looks and the design of this vehicle better than what BMW is doing these days. This one gives you a twin turbo V8, of course 4MATIC, typical fold-away mirrors, lots of glass on the roof, and as you can see, it's an AMG. It's an AMG E63S. Well, ultimate in durability. If you want cheap and dirty and the most reliable mode of transportation, this is not your game. But if you want something that's really going to excite you, this is going to be the game, because here's where it saves you money. If you buy the right vehicle the first time, instead of fiddling around and buying an E-Class, a lower grade of engine, but you always wanted the AMG, but you kind of hummed and hawed, there's almost 90% of the chance you're not keeping that other E-Class. You're probably going to trade it in 2 or 3 years, because you're going to realize, oh, I didn't really want that. That vehicle's kind of boring. I really did want the E63S, but I didn't want to spend the money at the time. So you do it right the first time. So you're not necessarily having to buy the vehicle that you thought was a good compromise at the time, but realize later that that really wasn't the vehicle for you. And I've had other people reach out and ask, Mark, what would you buy? I need a Ford truck. I love the brand. We like having Ford trucks in the family. What would you buy if you wanted an F-150? Well, I constantly tell people the best engine. I mean, I always start, of course, everybody thinks budget, 2.7, budget, budget, budget. But sometimes the budget ends up costing you more in the long run. You get a more unreliable setup, and ultimately that costs you dearly. It's not just about the initial buy-in cost. Sometimes they're just not as well made. That's why if you're looking at a Ford, you definitely want to get the 5-liter Coyote. And the Chevy and GMC trucks, we know right now the 6.2s are having problems, the 5.3s with the cylinder deactivation. Where do you go? Some people like the Turbo Max. I personally wouldn't even go with the small turbocharged Duramax diesel. I would actually go all the way up to the full size in a 3/4 or 1 ton with a 6.6 or 6.6 gas are the only engines right now that GMC and the Chevy trucks are having a decent time with. Now go ahead in the comment section below, drop a line if you believe in ownership after 2 or 3 years that you've actually made some money on the transaction of your new vehicle. I'd love to hear it, because we know during that 2020 and 2021, there were people that were buying them, owning them for a couple of years, and then flipping them and actually making money. Toyota Tacoma was one such example. But that being said, we know that cars, trucks, SUVs are essentially consumables. They're ultimately there to do a job, get us from A to B, take us to school, take us to work. But they shouldn't be more inconvenient than they're worth. And so ultimately, we know they will go down in value. We know there is maintenance involved. We know insurance costs are rising and gas costs as well. So ultimately, the best that we can do is start to control some of those costs. We need to look at some of the insurance. I often share some of my insurance experiences. I often share vehicles that are heavier on gas or lighter on gas so that they can help you make those decisions as well. But ultimately, when we're worried about depreciation, we know that almost every vehicle is going to lose value. The question is how much and how little. And I also like sharing resources from iSeeCars.com that collect data from hundreds of thousands of vehicles across the globe. And this is one area that a lot of people find themselves losing money like crazy. It's depreciation. So I've got a list of some of the worst. For example, the Cadillac Escalade, in a 5-year time frame, you're going to lose as much as 62% of the value is gone in 5 short years. In other words, you're going to lose about $56,000 in 5 years on that vehicle. Tesla Model X here as well, you're going to lose probably about 63% in 5 years, and that's going to basically lose you 52 grand. The Nissan Leaf here as well, you're going to lose about 64% of its original value off of sticker price, and that looks more like about $18,000 off the sticker you're going to lose. Or the BMW 5 Series Hybrid, you're going to lose about 47 grand, almost 65% of its value up in smoke in 5 years. Now another one in my list is Infiniti QX80. You're going to lose about 65% of that, basically almost 2/3 of the value gone in 5 years, and basically lose about $59,000. So as you can see, it's pretty significant numbers. If I can trade you to the direction where you lose less, then that's more money in your pocket. And that's one of my key objectives. The BMW 7 Series, we know they're premium brand. Of course, nobody really buys those on the secondary market. That's why they lose so much. $65,000 gone in 5 years. And you're going to lose a whole ton of money to the tune of about 67.1%. That's a substantial hit. How about the worst? The worst seller, the worst resale? Absolutely devastating. If you happen to be one of those electrified Jag owners, the Jaguar I-Pace, they lose as much as 72.5% in 5 years, or you could pretty much kiss away $52,000 of your hard-earned dollars. If you found this video helpful in the least, be sure to give it a thumbs up and a like. Of course, share it if you can. Definitely looking for a little help and a little love from each and every one of you out here every single day, every single week, pounding out, trying to give you the best content, the most reliable content, and coming from not an armchair warrior. Yes, the real deal, out here in the sun, the shine, the rain, and the snow. Anyway, hope to see each and every one in the next one, everybody. Check out those 2 fine videos. We'll see you all real soon. Bye-bye.